I've been wanting to do an entire video on why I believe gentle parenting is a tragedy for kids, a tragedy to be raised using the gentle parenting approach. My simple answer as to why is that it violates the very essence of a parent's number one job, what that number one job is when raising kids. It drastically overemphasizes emotions. And on top of that, it's short sighted and ignores reality, the reality every one of us faces as an adult. Let me start by saying, I guess that's restating, that I believe what I believe to be the number one responsibility for every parent when raising their kids to prepare them for adulthood. That's a number one job of every parent. Prepare them for life as an adult. You have to prepare your kids for life without you. You have to give them the necessary tools, instill in them the necessary mindset to live life as an adult, independent of you. Well, not just independent, actually to be an independent, confident, good decision maker. Gentle parenting raises weak-minded, fragile, dependent adults. That might sound harsh, but that's the result. The term gentle parenting may have been coined only in 2015, but the philosophy has been around for much longer than that. Gentle parenting has utterly failed at preparing kids for life as adults. Just look around at the fragility of today's young adults. They can't handle any adversity, they can't deal with conflict, and they tend to make the majority of their decisions based on pure emotion rather than fact, logic, and reason. Here's another way to look at this. Every person listening right now will likely agree. Life isn't gentle. It can be gentle at times. It can be loving and nurturing and oh so pleasant. But as a parent, you don't raise your kids with the mindset that life is a utopian experience of joy and satisfaction and pleasure all the time. As a parent, you need to prepare your kids when life is difficult, when it's challenging and ugly. You need them to be able to deal with the opposite of gentle. When life is brutal and rude, disrespectful, vulgar, no one can avoid those bad times, those bad things. We've all faced those things, those times. Your kids will face those things. Raising your kids exclusively using the gentle parenting method does not prepare them for the tough stuff in life. It just doesn't. Here's another problem with gentle parenting. It places so much emphasis on emotions and validating a child's emotions, their feelings. That may seem at first glance to be a good thing, but I'm here to tell you that it's not. Let me give you a very simple example of why validating a child's emotions all the time is bad. I call it the monster under the bed. Many kids go through the "there's a monster under my bed" phase. Maybe it's the HVAC vent when the heat or air conditioning is blowing and it makes a strange noise. Or maybe you live in an old house and at times there are house creaks and groans. Now, your child may be legitimately scared, really frightened, imagining the very worst of what is causing those sounds, a monster. Are you going to validate those feelings? Because you shouldn't. Those feelings are irrational. It's like riding a roller coaster. It feels scary. But statistically speaking, you're safer on that roller coaster than you were driving your car to get to the theme park. Parents should not validate irrational feelings. Don't take a single step down that road. Now, I told my son that there was no reason for him to feel that way, those feelings. They weren't based on any logic, fact, or reason. What did I tell him? When he got scared about the monster under the bed, what did I say? Go look under your bed. Are there really monsters? Get your flashlight. Take a look. It's basically the same thing I told him when we started riding roller coasters. This ride is going to seem spooky, very scary. That's the point of a roller coaster. But here's the thing. If you logically understand that you are safe on a roller coaster, it's actually fun to experience those feelings. Emotions, feelings, they should not control you. And it seems to me that gentle parenting experts would have you believe that emotions are more important than reality, more important than facts. Validate your child's emotions. What if those emotions they're feeling bear little to no, maybe zero relation to what is actually happening? All parents should teach their kids to be wary of strangers. But what if your child runs and hides under the bed every time someone they don't know knocks on the front door? They're terrified of strangers so much that they run and hide. Are you going to validate that response? Those feelings they're having? I mean, I hope you don't. You shouldn't validate irrational and irrelevant emotions. And yes, some emotional responses are both irrational and irrelevant. I never did that to my son, and I don't think you should do it with your kids. Let's take this mindset into the future when your kids are adults, or just think about some of the young adults that you know. How many of them place so much value on how they're feeling, what they're feeling? They place more value on those emotions than they do on what is actually happening. That is, they ignore facts and logic and reason. How many young adults do you know that are still scared of the proverbial monster under the bed? Look at climate change, or what the real issue is, global warming. At this point, more and more scientists are coming out every month and now concluding that although a warming planet will cause some issues, it is not the existential threat so many scientists were calling it just 5 years ago. A 1 or 1.5 degree increase in average temperature is not going to end life on our planet. It's not. Now, here's a really scary thing. Do you know that there have been kids that have committed suicide because they believe the planet is dying? Their feelings, their emotions, they were very real to them. But those feelings weren't based on good science, not on fact. A parent that validated those feelings, gave credence to those emotions their child was feeling about climate change, that turned out to be a big mistake for some people. The worst mistake ever. There's nothing wrong with feelings. Feeling upset or stressed or angry or whatever. Feelings and emotions are part of human nature. But a parent that doesn't help their child manage and understand those feelings, a parent that gives credence to irrational and irrelevant feelings is not helping their child. They're damaging them. Now, I've already done a video titled When to Value Facts Over Feelings. There's a link to that one at the end of this video. Please watch it. It may help you think about these issues in a slightly different way. Now, let me talk about another aspect of gentle parenting that I don't agree with. Punishments, consequences, and behavioral rewards. If you watch TikTok or Instagram, you may have seen some police body camera videos where they pull over someone and that someone decides that they don't have to listen to the cops. Many of these people literally say, "You're making me uncomfortable." Really? Who gets pulled over by a cop and feels comfortable? Being uncomfortable in that situation is pretty much the standard emotional response for everyone. There's those feelings again taking precedence over reality. That person being pulled over, they use their uncomfortableness. They prioritize being comfortable over reality, and they ignore a police officer's lawful order. Those stops most often end badly for that emotional citizen standing up to the big, meanie police officer. Now, I'll be the first to say, every profession has bad eggs. Doesn't matter if you're a cop, a lawyer, a doctor, a plumber, a mechanic. It doesn't matter. There are bad eggs in every job, but they're the small portion of them. But if you're going to let your emotions override good old common sense, you're probably going to suffer a punishment, a bad consequence, if you ignore a police officer's lawful order. As a parent using the gentle parenting approach, which avoids punishments and consequences, well, look around at some of the people you know. How did that turn out for them? There are many punishments and many consequences in adult life. Teach your kids how to deal with them, and they'll be easier for them to deal with when they become an adult. Next, no behavioral rewards? Really? Behavioral rewards can be found all over the place in life, from the time you start elementary school all the way into your employment and beyond. Being rewarded for good behavior and punished for bad, that's normal stuff. That's normal life. I'm not sure I really understand why gentle parenting doesn't like behavioral rewards, because behaving properly, that is, being considerate and thoughtful, kind, empathetic, behaving like that, well, it's emotionally uplifting for all parties concerned. Now, flip that coin over. Behaving badly is going to have consequences, punishments. It's not a parent's job to validate every one of their child's feelings, their emotions. It's bad parenting to overemphasize feelings and emotions. To be blunt, parents oftentimes feel like crap when they're parenting. They feel terrible sometimes when they're teaching their child a lesson. When I abandoned my son in a Target to teach him the importance of paying attention to me so he wouldn't get lost, when I did that, I felt like crap. When I gave my son the 3 strikes and you're out, and we left the zoo after being there for a total of like 5 minutes, I felt like crap. My emotions, my feelings were irrelevant. Look at it from your child's perspective. Sometimes I purposely made my son feel like crap to teach him a valuable lesson. I used emotions to teach him something. When I use shame, ridicule, and embarrassment to teach him a lesson, it hurt both my feelings and my son's. But sometimes the lessons are those kind of lessons, they leave a little scar in the soul, a reminder that stays with them for life. I felt lousy when I yelled at my son for running in front of a car for him to save his favorite ball. What? Jump forward 6 or 7 years, he gave me an earful when I arrogantly stepped into a crosswalk right in front of an oncoming car. Did I pull the "I'm the parent and you're the child" nonsense when he did that to me? No, I didn't. It took me a second to realize he was absolutely right, and I told him so. I apologized. That's parenting. Sometimes giving your kids hell to teach them a lesson, and sometimes you as a parent eating crow because to do anything else would be hypocrisy. Now, I'll wrap this topic up with this. Gentle parenting should not be used as a parenting philosophy. It's a parenting tool. Of course, my wife and I were gentle with my son at times when this situation called for it. Other times, we use an authoritative approach. Sometimes we needed to use a free-range parenting style, or the opposite. We needed to be helicopter parents. All those parenting styles are really just parenting tools. If you ever need a mechanic and he opens his toolbox and you see only one wrench in there, run. Take your car someplace else. Parenting styles are misunderstood. They're all parenting tools used as needed. If you want to raise an independent, confident, good decision maker, don't get stuck in a single parenting style. Being a helicopter parent all the time, bad. Being a free-range parent all the time, that's bad, etc., etc. And for the love of God, don't be a gentle parent all the time. Your kids will grow up to be broken, fragile, and weak, incredibly unprepared for the ungentleness of adulthood. Thanks for listening.